All right, good morning. So, a man walks out of a clock repair with his prized 100-year-old grandfather clock. And he's just spent a fortune having it repaired. Well, he turns the corner and runs right into, and I mean runs into, a panhandler, and the clock goes flying, hits the sidewalk, and breaks into 1,000,000 pieces. "Why don't you watch where you're going?" he says to the panhandler. And without missing a beat, the panhandler says, "Why don't you wear a watch like everybody else?" No. The thought. Oh, gosh. Good to be home. A lot of people don't get my humor. I found out after, I tell people all the time, I found out after years and years of preaching that my demographic really is about second grade boys. That's my perfect demographic because we have almost the exact same sense of humor. Everything they think is funny, I think is hysterical. They think I'm hysterical. It's like, oh my God, second grade. I aim too high. So everyone we teach in the Science of Mind is a center. You and I, we are individualized centers in the consciousness of God. And so what this means is that no one is more favored, no one is more important than anyone else, and that everyone, Ernest Holmes teaches us, is on a pathway of eternal evolution, that the journey is long. And so he says that the universe is impelled by love and propelled by law. He comes at that a lot of different ways, that he says that God is love and God is law. But I like this way, that the universe in which we live, is impelled by love and propelled, moved forward by this law that we learn to work with intelligently. So Jesus asks his disciples, he says, "Who do men say that I am?" And the disciples say, well, some of the multitude, they say that you're a prophet, and others say that you are the Messiah that we've been told is going to come. And he turns to Peter, which is always interesting. He turns to Peter and says, "Who do you say that I am?" And Peter says, "Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God." And Jesus says, in so many words, you didn't get that from somebody else. That came through you directly from God. And so this is really what I want to talk about today, is that Peter already has a level of spiritual maturity where he will get his personality out of the way and allow God, the presence of the infinite that is everywhere, but most importantly within him, to speak through him and reveal the greater truth that is necessary at that time to be known by him. People say to me every year in our foundation class, they say, "So in the Science of Mind, do we teach that we create our own reality or what? I mean, isn't that what we teach?" And it's like, oh, God, that's a hard question. Because, it's not a hard question. It's that the answer to the question is hard. Because it really depends, I think it really depends on, do people have a level of spiritual maturity? Do they have a rich inner life? Do they have a dedicated spiritual practice? Are they really committed, regardless of what else life calls them to doing their own inner work so that they can experience greater freedom and greater healing in their life? And so a lot of people are sort of, well, I'm committed to it when it's convenient, and I'm committed to it when there's no coffee, and I'm committed to it when, there's no place else to go. But I'm talking about a spiritual maturity that we're really committed to our spiritual practice, that we cultivate a life within, where that life within becomes more real to us than the life that's out here. See, because I think this is the level where I would say, yes, we are creating our own reality. But up until that point, not so much. Not so much. And so I'll tell you, here's why I think that's so. Is that we get off track, and everybody understands how we get off track. That happens. People just get off track. We have an episode, we have some condition that shows up in our life, some circumstance, and we're going along, and then all of a sudden, we're going completely another direction. So when people ask this very, very difficult, do we create our own reality? This is why I come back again and say, wow, that's really tough. You know, first of all, let me say, when you come to church, our job as a metaphysical spiritual community is to know a greater spiritual truth about you. So when you're in the pit, our job is not to get in the pit with you. Right? You already have plenty of people who are willing to get in the pit with you. You know what I mean? People who will agree with you that, oh my God, that's awful. How terrible for you. Oh my God, you're right. That is the worst possible thing that could happen. How awful. You've got those people already. You know who they are. You know, their number's on speed dial. Right? You know, when you want agreement from those people, you know who to call. That's not the purpose of having a spiritual community. The purpose of having a spiritual community, at least this spiritual community, is that we're here to know a greater truth for you. And like the scripture says, when you know the truth will make you free. But you know, I always think about that thing that Werner Erhard used to say long ago. Remember Werner Erhard fans? Werner Erhard fans? Yeah, he said, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. But first, it's going to piss you off. I'm sorry. And honestly, that's just what this is like. That is just what this is like. If you didn't like that, don't tell me later. I don't care. If you didn't like that, feel free to talk to Reverend Mark, okay? So here's part of it. That now again, all right, so I know this is nobody here, okay? So don't shoot the messenger, okay? This is not anybody here in this room. We've checked at the door, okay? So we know it's nobody here, but people you know. Not everybody wants to be healed. Oh, that's ridiculous. How can you say such a... I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about those people who didn't come to church today. You know, that not everybody wants to be healed of their current situation. You say, well, why? How could people not want to be healed? Well, you know, I don't know, but in some perverse way, maybe they're getting value out of it. Maybe they get like a little mileage out of it. Maybe they've got some power over the other people in their life out of it. There are lots of reasons people would not want to be fully, completely, totally, 101% healed of their current condition, whatever that might be. And if you think I'm kidding, then I'd say, well, think about you. Has there ever been a time when you have not wanted to let go of something? Really let go. Be done with it. Be healed. Never tell that story again. See, people do get value, sometimes in a really perverse way, out of a negative condition. Not everyone, but some people. The ones who are not here today. All right? See, in Science of Mind, we are trained to see each other as spiritual beings, and the spirit that you are, that spiritual essence that exists within your soul, is whole, perfect, and complete. No story, no BS, no history. You, spirit, now perfect, end of story. That's it. You, spirit, now perfect, you know? And so that's what should go through our mind when we see everybody. Oh, hi, you, spirit, now perfect. Hello, nice to see you today. You, spirit, now perfect. Nothing else. Nothing else. See, because agreeing with other people's limitations, agreeing with other people's past, agreeing with other people about how awful it is actually not helpful to healing. It's really not. And like we said, there are lots of other people who are already agreeing with them as to how life works for everybody else in the world except for you. You poor, dumb, stupid, helpless, hopeless thing. Right? We already have those people. We already have those people who know to agree with us about that. Everybody else gets better but you. Everybody else gets to have love but you. Everybody else gets to be healed but you. See, there's no benefit in people at church joining in on that bandwagon. That is not going to help anybody heal. All right, here's what it comes down to for me. If you could be any kind of pie, you know what would come to food? If you could be any kind of pie, what kind of pie would you be? Wild berry. What else? Apple pie. Blueberry pie. Okay, so it's you. You get to be pie. So now, so personally, I see myself as the homemade crust, the really good kind, that after it's baked is then painted with chocolate, yeah, and then banana cream, yeah, whipped cream, toasted macadamia nuts on top, huh? Okay? I mean, if you're going to be pie, pick the one you like, right? Imagine that your energy, the energy of your being, your life force, your chi, your prana, is a pie. All right? The essence of your life force is a pie. And now you want to have healing. And people say, don't I create my own reality? And it's like, well, I would say that's true, except some of your pie, like a big hunk, is cut out, and it's before you even get out of bed in the morning, that pie is already spoken for because you're giving it to your ex. Or as the case may be, exes. Cut out a few more pieces. And then there's that piece of pie that every day before you get out of bed, you're giving some of your prana, your life force, to that boss who treated you so badly way back when. And then there's that friend that you don't speak to anymore, so cut a little wedge for them. And we'll put that over here. And now what we look down in the dish, and what's left of your pie is just a little slice. Now, I'm here to tell you, you need all of your pie to have healing. You need all of your pie. And say, oh no, if I'm a good spiritual person, I'll be giving my pie to everybody. No, you won't. They have their own pie. Get back in your dish, okay? I'm not talking about that you're not going to love them and be kind to them and good to them and listen to them and all that stuff. This is about where your life force, the energy of your consciousness goes before you're even out of bed in the morning. You know, when people tell me, oh my God, I wake up in the morning and I'm just exhausted, I haven't even done anything yet, I know that their pie is already all gone. Yeah, absolutely, that it's already, their energy is already out on all these other things. And I think this is really important for us, because when people say, you know, I don't understand, why aren't I having better progress trying to heal this particular thing in my life? I'm trying to make progress in my career. I'm trying to do something, I'm trying to have some healing in my body. I'm trying to heal a relationship. Because if you start the day and all of your energy is out there with other people, and of course it's always tied to the past. I guarantee you, it's always, always tied to the past. So I'm here to tell you that the number one most important thing you could do to have healing in your life is you have to forgive. This is the hardest thing for us to do. You know, this is, you know, in the Old Testament, which is about the law, the hardest practice to master in the Old Testament is tithing. That's why Malachi comes last in the Old Testament. It's as if they're saying, so you thought you were doing really good? How about tithing, right? That's the hardest practice to master in the Old Testament. Why? Because we think we're our money. Okay, but that's not what I'm talking about today. So let's come ahead to the New Covenant. The New Covenant in the New Testament, Jesus says, I bring you a new covenant. The new covenant is love. That you love God and love one another. And the hardest practice, the hardest spiritual practice to master in the New Testament is forgiveness. Ooh, why? Because we've always got a story about someone or something. You know, and that story is so hard to let go of. I've been telling it for years. It's so juicy. You know, I get such agreement about it. I've created a whole support network around my story. You know, I have special handshakes and secret decoder rings to people who know my story. See, it's just that it takes a lot of our life force, you know, to keep those things going. And so I would ask us today to think about you as pie, and where have you given it away? What's your life force attached to? Because as long as your life force is attached to those things, it's going to be very difficult to have healing. And now, when our life force is attached to things in the past, there's usually a couple of things going on. That we've usually got something or someone to blame. or that we're shaming ourselves. Shame is I'm bad. Or we have regret. And I'm here to tell you, you cannot blame shame or regret enough that you get healed. Right? Nobody, it's never happened where somebody says, oh my God, I just shamed myself so much I finally got healed. I just blamed somebody else so much that finally my body got healthy. I just had so much regret that finally I prospered like crazy. I mean, that just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. It's like that's what's got to stop. You've got to bring that back in here. See, because in blame and shame and regret, you're leaving your chi out there. Your life force is out there. Now, not all the past was bad, certainly not, but the part that was good, we've already incorporated into us. It's part of who we are today. All right? So we don't have to worry about the good part of our past. That's terrific. So I say, forgiveness is the most powerful thing you can do to heal your life, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, to just let the past go and live fully now. Be here now. Be here now. I'm not saying we're condoning people's bad behavior. Please don't go there. People always have to come up to me after and say, well, are you saying that I should condone someone's bad behavior? No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying you're unhooking from it. I'm saying you're making a conscious decision to bless them and release them and take the hook of whatever that was out of you so they no longer have dominion over you. So that no longer rules you. Yes. See, because to heal, I have to be big enough to say, you know what? There's a part of me, the spiritual part of me, that was never harmed. All right? That it was all for my good. And so a way to begin is that I start to say, I forgive. I'll talk about Ernest. Ernest is always good to pick on because I know he's just spiraling upward in some other dimension, and he just loves to be included in the service. So, so I'd say, I forgive you, Ernest, for all that you have done. Say that.
I forgive you, Ernest, for all that you have done.
I love you as I love myself.
I love you as I love myself.
God is the love that I am.
God is the love that I am.
And you might say that, say 2, 3, or 4 million times over a period of days and weeks and months. And then at some point, that will shift. That will shift. And you have forgiven because it shifts to, I am grateful to you, Ernest, for all that you have done. Go ahead.
I am grateful to you, Ernest, for all that you have done.
I love you as I love myself.
I love you as I love myself.
God is the love that I am.
God is the love that I am.
So how can we go from forgiveness to gratitude? Because you get that it was all for your growth. It didn't come to stay, it came to pass, and it came to grow you. It came so that you could get the bigger realization out of it. Ernest Holmes says that a realization of the presence of God is the most powerful healing agency known to the mind of man. So when you really get that, oh my gosh, who I am as a spiritual being is so much more than this thing that I've been giving all my pie to. Who I am as spirit is so much greater than that. In fact, there is a part of me that is spirit that is completely untouched by that. It came for me to learn something, to be big, to put on my big boy spiritual pants and rise up and say, I am more than this. This does not, determine my present or my future. That who I am as a spiritual being is so, so much bigger. And I understand, when you're in the middle of it, it seems like that's all there is. I get it. Which is why I say, you forgive and forgive and forgive and forgive millions of times, and then it shifts, it clicks over into another gear, and it becomes gratitude. Oh, this happens so that I would be grown. So I would say that when we're chasing after, when we're pursuing healing in our life, I think it's really important that we have to be in the 2 or more with someone else, as in not the 2 or more who are going to take you down the drain. To be with someone who's going to have an agreement with you for the spiritual truth. This is really important. That Jesus does this again and again with the disciples, that he gives a deeper teaching when they're in the 2 or more. He tells the multitude one thing, but when he's got a couple of them, he's talking about something else. He's talking about something at a higher level. And so we need to have people in our life who will go to that higher level with us for the really important stuff, who will agree with us for spiritual truth, who will be in agreement with us for healing. in the ancient indigenous cultures, the first based land people on every continent, they would let you tell your story 3 times. 3 times. And then the 4th time, they would walk away. Interesting, isn't it? You know, because they recognized to allow people to keep telling the story just for the sake of telling the story was actually a disempowering thing. So I'd say the other piece is to say, you know what? The value I have gotten from this is not as great as my life could be if I were willing to let this go. You know, I would rather have support for being extraordinary and filled with joy and filled with love and all of that good stuff than having, you know, it seems to me that people are very willing, and I understand where this comes from. People are very willing to agree with our brokenness, with our woundedness, with how difficult it's going to be for life to work for us. Because later they're going to want to play that card with us, you know? And so I think it would be great that if we started to say, you know, what I really want is to be someone who supports people in how fantastic they are, in how magnificent they are, in how incredible they are, and remind them that yes, I know you're going through stuff, but I also know it's not all of who you are. I know that you are this extraordinary, magnificent, beautiful, loving God being, and God in you is greater than the muck that you're slogging through right now. You know, that you will get through it. I'm certain you will. I would love to see us bond out of love and strength and possibility rather than our deepest connect. It seems to me that so many of our deepest connections are out of a place of brokenness, you know? And I think that's not the best thing for us to build on. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I think that it's, and yes, absolutely, we want to support each other in healing, but I think part of how we do that as a spiritual community is to say, you know, I have compassion for you. I see that you're suffering, and I know who you are is so much more than that. You know, if you jump in the pit with people, it's just going to be a crowded pit. You know, that's no good's going to come. No good will come from that. So it seems to me that to create your own reality, what it takes really is great discipline. You know, to be in the 2 or more, to stop telling a disempowering story, which would mean letting go of what it's time to let go of. You know what? I think everybody understands this, that we all get clues from the universe that sometimes it's just time to let go of something or someone. Oops, sorry. But you know, we get those clues. It's time to let go. You should let go of this. You should let go of this. Really, you should let go of this. You know, and it's like, oh no, I can't. You know, we're such good friends. I can't. And I'm not talking about people there. I'm talking about my issue. You know, my issue and I, we're such good friends. But Ernest says, you know, we have to come to the great reality in adoration. Now that's interesting for metaphysicians, to come to the great reality in adoration. He said, having surrendered our littleness, you know, naked, clean, and unafraid, then shall our horizon be expanded and the night shall cease. So what that means, you know, for me, what that means is, you know, when I humble myself and know that, you know, humanly I can only do so much, but I know that there is a principle and a power and a presence that's everywhere but also within me, and with that, all things are possible, then yes, our future is bright. Let's pray. So we turn our attention inward now to recognize that we are surrounded and filled by this principle, power, and presence of the infinite loving Spirit. I know it is God, the truth of my being, the truth of every person here. And so coming together in consciousness, I speak the word for each and every one of us that this day we stand humbly before the altar of consciousness within our own mind, within our own heart, and we surrender what does not serve us anymore. Whether it's a thought, an idea, a habit pattern, a way of being, a story we've told, an experience from our past. If it limits our ability to have healing in our life this day, I claim for each and every one of us that we just simply surrender it over, that there's no value in that anymore for us. And so we gather back in our life force so that the life force that we are can all be used for a greater expression by means of us. So I know that God has no favorites, that nothing is withheld in the mind of God. And so for each and every one of us, I claim this day that the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And that means that healing is absolutely available, possible in every good and perfect way, and we say yes to it. I claim for each and every one of us that we are empowered in our own thinking and in our own lives by the people that we love who love us. So we let our prayer be a blessing in the world around us, so that all those things that come into our awareness that possibly make us doubting or fearful, we claim the perfect activity of God, that God, the God that we believe in, is greater than even those difficult circumstances, those appearances that we see. We bless our church, we bless all churches everywhere, synagogues, temples, mosques, ashrams, all paths to God. All of those people that we love, we include them in our prayer. And with an open, grateful heart, I give thanks that this is the truth. I release this word, and so it is. Together we all say, Amen.